Oh, wow. That's really cool. Yeah. Nice photo.
Okay, we are ready.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Brendan. Welcome, everybody, to the September 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Land Use and Waterfront Committee. My name is Majid Abdul Samad. I am the chair of the committee. Tonight, we're joined by Assistant District Manager Brendan Berth, and this meeting is called to order at 6:23. As a reminder, New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on, and their first and last name is displayed from the time the meeting is called to order till the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members of the public here in person, seeing none, raise your hands when you show up. Okay, we do need a volunteer to take minutes tonight. So Larry, for the sake, thank you, Larry. All right, well, Chair, we take minutes and ask Brendan to please take roll call for attendance.
Committee members, I will call your name. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Majid Abdul Samad.
Present.
Tanya Arias.
Present.
Victoria Benatar.
Present.
Jim Collins.
Here.
Maya Donahue.
Here.
Alec Militek.
Present.
Rich Mintz.
Present.
Larry Shire.
Present.
Sandra Sherrod, I don't see with us. Letty Simon. I do see Letty here. Letty counting you as present for the record. Susan Steinberg.
Here.
Gabe Terzo.
Here.
And James Vera. I don't see, but we do have a quorum.
I'm here. It's Letty.
Yep, I'm counting you as present.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Letty. All right. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and is reflected on the screen for you. If there's no objections, we'll adopt the agenda as displayed. If there are any objections, please raise your hand. Seeing none, the agenda is adopted. Now, the meeting minutes from August are still being drafted. I saw they came through just earlier.
Yeah, they were just drafted.
Sorry.
Perfect. No worries. You're on vacation. That's totally fine. So we'll get those, we'll review them and get them up on the website as soon as possible. So with that, quick ground rules. Sorry, I have to repeat those every time. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, observing the following. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question or about committee business, or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand. I'll identify you to speak. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question about the committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom and I'll identify you so you can speak. All committee members, it's extremely important that only one person speaks at a time so members of the public can understand what is being said by each member. Chat function should only be used, should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. Also, such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. All right, now that that's done, welcome to the new committee members. We're so happy you guys joined us. We have a fun agenda today. It's not a very long meeting, but we'll start with our guests for the presentations, and then we'll have our internal discussion. So our first agenda item is a presentation from the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project, Parallel Conveyance Project, sorry, about work on Avenue C between East 18th Street and East 23rd Street. Actually, I will defer to our speaker, Desiree, to address more details.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Good evening, everyone. My name is Desiree Gazzo from HNTB Liro, the community engagement team for the PMCM for the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project. The Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project includes a couple of different projects, so we'll get into that in a minute. And let me share my screen here. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. Can you see it in presentation mode?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, great. So we'll start with the meeting. I am joined here tonight by colleagues from the Parallel Conveyance team, the Community Construction Liaison, Tanya, who will introduce a little bit later, as well as several folks from the New York City DDC, who is running the construction of the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project. So first, we'd just like to remind everyone that we do have an Esker to Your School program. So if there are any local schools who would like us to come in and speak about the flood protection, coastal resiliency, climate change, etc., we do have a really great presentation that we've presented to several schools in the area. And we would love to come to your school or community center or, really wherever to talk about the project more. As always, we do tabling and community events. So if you'd like us to come table at your community or in the park, we'd love to do that as well. So please just reach out. So we're going to just give a really brief overview of Project Area 1 and Project Area 2 because we haven't been here in quite a while. So we just wanted to let you know where things stand with those two projects, and then we'll go into parallel conveyance. So really quickly, because we might have some new folks in the room, the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project is broken out into these 3 projects. Project Area 1 is south of East 14th Street to Montgomery Street. Project Area 2, which CB6 lies in, is north of East 14th Street to about East 25th Street, and has Murphy Brothers Playground, Stuyvesant Cove Park, and Astor Levy Playground. And then parallel conveyance are these red lines that run through the entirety of the project, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So for an overview of the 3 contracts, this is our typical slide that we show here. For Project Area 1, the East River Park is closed south of Houston Street. There's a greenway closure to East 10th Street, north to East 10th Street, and a portion of Corlears Hook Park is closed. The Corlears Hook pedestrian bridge is currently closed with the temporary bridge open, but the new Corlears Hook bridge is being assembled on site. And we just opened the Delancey Street Bridge on September 2nd. We have ongoing utility work, flood activity work, demolition of the Esplanade and reconstruction. There's a lot of construction work happening. And then we're working to bring back a lot of new amenities. So ball fields 1 and 2, right by the Delancey Street Bridge, opened on September 2nd as well. And that's available for open play as long as there's not a permitted team there. Currently, that is the only location that the Delancey Street Bridge goes to. So you can cross the bridge, go to the ball fields, and then you'd have to cross the bridge back out. It doesn't connect to any other outlets. And then we're making great progress on the amphitheater, tennis court construction, multi-use field, and more. For Project Area 2, which you're very familiar with, Astor Levy Playground has been open. Stuyvesant Cove Park is open except for the area near Solar One where the EDC construction is. And Murphy Brothers Playground, we're expecting to open in October. So we're really excited that we're delivering this project on time. All 3,129 feet of flood wall has been installed, and all gates, which are numbered 7 through 18, have also been installed. I put the links to our gallery, our construction galleries here. We are still in the process of updating them. So if you don't, you could wait a week or so to look at them and we'll have new pictures up. And then for parallel conveyance, so we've broken up parallel conveyance into a couple of different locations. So for Corlears Hook Park and Water Street area, there's a lot of prep work for the interceptor gate chamber, which we'll talk about in a couple of slides. And then there's a lot of utility relocations and sewer work, especially on Water Street between Gouverneur Slip East to Jackson Street. Houston Street and Delancey Street, similar utility relocations, test piles, and water main installation. That is the bulk of this project. And then Avenue C, which we'll go into a little bit more detail here in a minute. We have the test piles that are ongoing. So very quickly for project area 1, again, this is our typical slide, so it'll be up on our website if you want to go back and look at it in more detail. But it really speaks to the items that I mentioned on the previous slide. Here at number 7 is where the Delancey Street Bridge opened, and then there's the access to ball fields 1 and 2. The northern portion of the park that connects past the Con Ed facility to Stuyvesant Cove Park is still open right now. And there is some work happening on East 10th Street. We're about to do some micro tunneling under the FDR. But then a good portion of this section of the park is closed. Pier 42 did open in full, so that is a new resource now for the southern portion of the park. So at the top left is a photo of ball fields 1 and 2 when it had opened. And then in the bottom right is the Corlier's Hook Bridge assembly. So that's being assembled on site on East River Park, kind of where the compost facility used to be there, and there was a temporary lawn that we had there for a little bit. So that's now the staging area for, it was for the Delancey Street Bridge, and now it is for the Corlier's Hook Bridge. We've been getting some questions about when the future amenities are going to open, and we're looking to put out a schedule as soon as we get a better idea of that. For East 10th Street, again, we are doing ongoing improvements to sidewalks and detour areas. We have received several questions about that pinch point area around Con Ed, and we expect a timeline for that procurement process to be developed in the months ahead. So we will come back with that information. But if anyone has any questions on that, again, we will have to come back with a little bit better of a timeline for that process. We've also been receiving a lot of questions, and this pertains to Project Area 1 and Project Area 2 about the floodgate operations. So once we complete the construction, once DDC completes the construction, when the flood protection is handed over, it will be handed over to DEP's new bureau. So DEP has a new Bureau of Coastal Resiliency, and they will be managing the floodgate operations, maintenance, etc. So we put their website here, and I know CB3 is going to ask them to come speak again about some of the maintenance and operations of the flood walls and floodgates, etc. So it might be, if you're interested, I'm sure they would come to CB6 as well. So for Project Area 2, again, as I mentioned, all the areas in green are open, Astor Levy Playground and Sky Cove Park, and then the areas in red are closed. Again, the area around Solar One, and then Murphy Brothers Playground, which we expect to open here in October. These are a few photos of the playground. It looks amazing. And then they're going to be doing the plantings as well, which will add an additional greenery to the area. Here's the T-ball field at Murphy Brothers Playground and the small dog run as well. So moving on to parallel conveyance, we just wanted to give a quick overview of what the parallel conveyance system is. Project Area 1 and Project Area 2, which is kind of in orange here on the water side of the flood walls and floodgates. This flood protection system will help protect the community from coastal and tidal flooding and salt water. So this is when the storm surge comes and pushes up, on the river and then against the shore. Project Area 1 and Project Area 2 will help protect the community from that tidal flooding. Parallel conveyance is the sewer upgrades, which will help protect the community from flooding that results from heavy rainfall during the storm events. So the parallel conveyance work increases the capacity of the sewer system to provide that interior flood protection, which is in the blue area here. It's combined sewer overflow and utility work improvements. There's 2 gatehouses, the interceptor gate buildings, and then improvements of street lighting, traffic signals within the work zone. And then there's 2 interceptor gate chambers, which will effectively close off your drainage area. So that way, it will only take in draining and stormwater from within your area, so that the capacity doesn't get overburdened.
Can I ask for clarification? The idea there is that it will close it off so that seawater doesn't come flooding in from the riverside?
Well, are we, is it okay if I answer questions now?
Sure, go for it, yeah.
Oh, okay, great. I know all community boards work differently and some wait till the end. Okay, that's fine. That's great. So to protect the community from the seawater, that's really the function of the flood walls and the flood gates. The interior drainage, so the area that's in blue, that really is mostly impacted from the rainwater that's coming down during the storm events. That is the water that it is responsible for managing. So the upgrades of the stormwater, so if the stormwater pipes were, say, this big, and now we're upgrading them to be more, they could hold more capacity from the stormwater that's flowing down.
Is it literally about capacity to accommodate heavy rainfall?
It's about capacity, it's about extra storage areas, it's about how the water is managed within the area. It's a little bit different like under East River Park than it is over here. And it's about, again, like creating that the ability to shut off flows coming from other areas or extra overflow, so it will get bypassed and not interrupt what we're supposed to be holding as far as capacity.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So
Same, just a
Sorry,
follow-up.
one more clarification, go ahead.
Now, this parallel conveyance, will it be able to operate independently of the closure of the seawall? The flood wall?
Yes. So the interceptor gate chambers, so normally, right, if it rains, it will still hold capacity, etc. The interceptor gate chambers, similar to the flood gates, they would need to be closed in a time of a storm or of severe flood. So, but they do operate, they work together, but could also function to some extent separately. Like the extra capacity will always, be there regardless of whether or not the floodgates are closed.
So in the event of a heavy downpour that, is a flash flood, it would assist.
Yes, correct. Okay, so this is the interceptor gate chamber. So this is about 4 stories deep under the ground. We put a little person there for scale, and you can see the stairs, how small they are compared to this giant gate chamber. So this is kind of the gate that opens and closes to maintain kind of your drainage area. And then this is the interceptor gate building that has the mechanics to operate the gate chamber. And that's on East 20th Street. And Avenue C is kind of, on the other side of the crosswalk there. So as far as construction progress is concerned, again, these are the 6 areas of parallel conveyance, 1, 2, 3, and 4 being in the south, and then 5 and 6 being up on Avenue C. Again, we went over a lot of the work that's happening down in areas 1 through 4. The whole project is utility relocation, sewer work installation, and then kind of the restoration of the project. So at locations 5 and 6, which is in your district. The test pits are ongoing here. Then they started to do test pile work, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. And then you have Con Edison that assists on this as well. And we work in coordination with Con Edison, again, to upgrade the lines so that we go down once and upgrade all the utilities, move the utilities, put in the new sewer system, because again, the sewer system is the furthest utility in depth wise. You want to put your bad water on the bottom, and then you build all your other utilities up on top of it. So the contractor has to move the other utilities out of the way, put in the new sewer system, again, repair and replace any utilities that require so, because when we're building this new system, we want to make sure that no one else has to go down there except, in case something happens, but we want everything to be as up to date as possible. And then we go back and restore everything. So we're working very closely with Con Ed on some of the work there as well. And again, at location 6, we're doing the test piles and the utility relocation. So here's a little bit of a kind of inset map of this area. And just kind of to review some of the terms that we spoke about. So the test pits, they come in with kind of a smaller machine, if you've seen it around in the neighborhood, and they do these small excavations to identify the existing underground utility services. So as you know, in Manhattan, it's like spaghetti of utilities down under the sidewalk. And though there are some really great maps that show as-built conditions of utilities, there are times when utilities are abandoned, or if emergency work has to be done, sometimes it doesn't get noted on an as-built drawing. So the contractor does a series of test pits to make sure that the drawings that they have where the utilities are, that all checks out in the field. So that way they don't have any disruptions to utilities while they're digging and excavating to do the construction. So the test pits is really the first thing that's done. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about, the map is not, maybe precise about where you show East 18th Street and Avenue C. One, there's not going to be any kind of a structure there, but where, exactly will this excavation be? Are you going to be closing, the loop road? Because the red area appears to be the entire width of that.
I think we're not exactly right now with the test pits and the test pile work. It's just we're only taking like a lane or a parking area. Once we get into kind of more of the utility work, then we will be able to come back and have more notifications of any other like closures that would be necessary to do that work. In some of the areas in the southern portion of the project, we've had temporary lane closures or roadway closures. So we don't have the exact schedule for that here right now. We could only talk to the test pits and the test piles. But as that starts getting developed, then we'll keep coming back, because this project is ongoing. So we will be here more regularly now that it has started, and we'll be able to discuss further impacts or lane closures, et cetera, to the areas.
Just a heads up, this is a very, tricky intersection, particularly for pedestrians who are trying to get into Stuyvesant Cove Park. And, I hope you, will make special provision for their crossing and their and pedestrians' visibility while crossing Avenue C.
Yes, and as we have with other projects, if a flagger is necessary to assist in that, we will certainly arrange that. From our experience with Project Area 2, so many of these intersections are very heavily trafficked by the cars that are coming on and off the FDR. And then you have those pedestrian crosses of all the folks who want to get across to the park, and the bike lane and the buses. So in this little stretch here, y'all have so much going on. So we'll be sure to, work with you and work with, again, the multimodal, area that this is. But yes, it's great that you're stating your concerns ahead of time so that way we can make sure we're on top of it. So then the test piles, the piles have to go in to help support the utilities and the excavation as we do the work that needs to be done. So before the contractor does the final test piles, before they do the final piles, they do a series of test piles to determine the pile capacity, to determine the conditions of the area. It's for multiple reasons. And it's great, again, that they're doing the test pits and the test piles before they just start doing, the final construction work. We have to make sure that everything is all checked and balanced before we go ahead and do that. So the test piles and the test pits is the work that's going on kind of in this area between Avenue C and 23rd Street. And it will continue going on probably through October. We do have an advisory. This was an advisory for no parking on the south side of East 20th Street and Avenue C and the East 20th Street loop. So again, we do issue very specific advisories for the exact locations where there is not parking, try to keep them very updated and give you advance notice so that you're aware. And then we'll do the same again if there's any lane closures, etc. And then the sequence of pile work again, which I briefly went over, this gets into a little bit more detail. There are two types of test piles. There's helical piles and micro piles. Depending on the conditions and the locations, the helical piles take approximately 1 hour to install with load tests, following 1 to 2 days later. So again, that's the main purpose of these test piles, to do the load tests because they're going to be supporting some of the utilities. And then the test pile operations are expected to conclude by the end of October, which I just said. Permanent piles are required to support the new stormwater and drainage infrastructure. So they're very, very important. So these are some of the photos of what we were just speaking about. So this photo, the first photo is the installation of test piles. This is on Delancey Street South from September. So again, these same work operations are happening all throughout the parallel conveyance area. This is the load testing of the piles on South Street as well. And these are the two pictures that show how they do the load testing for those piles. Excuse me. On the left-hand side is the sewer installation on Water Street, and you can see how deep that sewer system goes. So again, it's really important to get all the utilities out of the way to be able to go ahead and go down. And they really use the minimum footprint that they could have here, again, to try not to impact so much area. This is excavation for conduit installation at East Houston Street and Columbia. Water main installation, which you could see the difference in depth, how closer up it is than the sewer, which is so much deeper. And then this is a helical pile installation on Delancey Street in September. So they've been doing a lot of this work already in the southern portion of the project, and now we're moving up to the northern portion of the project. So it's great that we have photos to be able to show exactly what it's going to be looking like. So again, these are, you could look for resources, for community resources. We have our website, which we post the bulletin that gets distributed every Friday. If you're not signed up to receive the bulletin, please reach out to our construction liaison, Tanya. Her number is here and her email is here. She is our day-to-day liaison with the community. Again, I'm available as well, but Tanya works directly with the PMCM. Oh dear, hold on one second. Sorry about that. With the PMCM team that is leading the parallel conveyance project. We're at the CB3 Parks meetings. Now we will be at CV6 again, which we're very happy about. We have the inquiry tool, which is on our contact page on the website, and you could feel free to submit questions there at any time you'd like, and we have our team to answer them. On the right-hand side are some of the community advisories that we will post in the area. We post them in Spanish, Chinese, and English. And again, we will continue to come to CB6 either when we have updates or as you invite us back, should you have questions outside of our updates. And this again is just the Eastside Coastal Resiliency website that has so much information on it. And that's our presentation for tonight.
Great, thank you so much. Much appreciated. Susan, go first.
Hi, Desiree, Susan Steinberg.
Susan.
Hi. As Con Ed is doing its utility relocation, in Stuyvesant Town, we have many buildings that end up without gas or heat and hot water. And it's really hard for us to know when buildings experience this, whether it's a result of Con Ed's work for the Eastside Coastal Resiliency or whether it's something else. And I didn't know if you were able to, if you had a comment on that.
Yeah, so to my knowledge, we've only been doing test pits and the test piles. We haven't done any utility relocation yet. As we start actually excavating within your area, then should something happen, the best thing to do is to call Tanya. So you should keep her phone number in your mobile phone and you can call her at any time and she will know immediately if it's related to she knows if our crews are working on steam line, if they're working on something, and if she can't answer immediately, she will find out and call you right back.
Okay.
Yeah, so please, anyone who lives in the area, and may be directly impacted, please take down Tanya's phone number, and you can reach out to her and she will be the best person to help. If for some reason you can't get in touch with her, I could put my email in the chat as well, and you're free to email me as well.
Great,
I'm
thank
always.
you.
Can you provide that now,
Oh, yeah,
for the
sure thing.
minutes?
Asking about the contact information?
So I could put it in the minutes, I can't read it.
I can pass you.
Okay.
Yeah. My other time.
Hello, I had a question on with the flood walls and everything, which is great, but what about long-term stuff? Have you considered like adding more like water vegetation? I know cities like Boston are like trying out like, because vegetation itself slows the current and everything. Have you guys thought about that for the long term?
So for Stuyvesant Cove Park, there's actually the planted areas that are all along Stuyvesant Cove Park, which is the park that's closest to the water. Those planting areas have been designed with plant materials that can withstand seawater or salt water and some amount of flooding. This project was determined again with the years of planning since 2015 that we needed to use kind of harder flood mitigation or flood protection because of the intensity of the storms. I mean, 8 feet is a lot to be able to I guess absorb through planting areas, and because there wasn't a lot of width in those areas. So I think some of the parks that are able to use vegetation to really slow down and help with flooding perhaps have more land area, and perhaps the flooding wouldn't be as extreme. So and then with East River Park, because that park is so heavily recreational, they needed to have the field as their primary, use for that park, and that's why they decided to raise it. But they do have, and you can look through the Public Design Commission presentations. It talks about the different plant communities that were planned through East River Park and Stuyvesant Cove Park, and their ability to withstand coastal flooding more so than some of the plant materials that, especially in East River Park, were not able to as much. I hope that helps.
Hi Desiree, this is Tanya Arias. It's spelled with one N, not two N's, like your Tanya. I'm new to this, so I'm sorry if you already answered this question. What is the timeline of the project and how are you doing on the schedule? Are you within the schedule? What is the timeline? When is it expected to be completed? And how is it going?
Yeah, and I apologize for not bringing up the full timeline. The timeline for parallel conveyance is 2026. So by the end of 2026, that project is expected to be completed, and we are on schedule for that. For project area 2, which was Astor Levy, Murphy Brothers, and Stuyvesant Cove Park, that was expected to be completed the end of this year, and we are on schedule for that, again with Murphy Brothers opening next month. And then for project area 1, that is scheduled to be completed in 2026 as well.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you very much. Victoria then.
Hi, Desiree, how are you? This is Victoria Benatar, back here. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned this project is from 2015, correct?
So the community outreach for this project, the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Task Force, City Task Force started, and I apologize for the background noise if you can hear the sirens, but it did start in 2015. And there has been community engagement through the design process, and then it switched over in construction, and community engagement has continued all throughout construction.
So my question is this updated to up-to-date technology for this kind of infrastructure?
Yes, it is. It has been the design wasn't finalized until I want to say 2019. But the community outreach started just a couple of years after Hurricane Sandy, after the Rebuild by Design project, and then the federal funding came in. So there was many, many years of community engagement. The engineering teams consulted with countries all over the world about their flood protection. And we have countries from all over the world now coming to look at this project as a kind of new standard in flood resiliency. So I think the Canadian government was just here last week. We had folks from Japan come a couple of weeks before that. And they are, looking at the flood protection and the gates and how the system works as well. Because this is a new project for this area. But there was a lot of consultation with, again, folks from the Netherlands, et cetera.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, Desiree.
Oh, and just one other thing. Sorry, I just want to add to that. So the walls are built, they're about 8 feet tall, and the foundations of the wall have been built strong enough to add another 2 feet on top of the flood wall system. So should climate numbers, should storm numbers change, there is additional height that could be added to the flood wall. So it does take into consideration future projections as well.
Let's hope we don't have to get there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna rotate actually speakers. Sandra, you want to speak next?
Okay, so it's not a parallel conveyance question. Desiree, I was just wondering if you could enlighten us. You mentioned that the pinch point is in procurement. I don't believe, at least I have not seen anything from like a CD set. I don't know where you are in the design phase, but could you talk a little bit about the process going on around the pinch point?
Sure, it's in procurement for design.
Okay,
So,
wonderful.
yeah, so nothing was missed. I should have clarified that. And you know what, we'll clarify that before we'll resend the PDF. And I'll clarify that in that slide, so that way it is more clear. Folks watch this, afterward. Look at the presentation. Yes, so we didn't miss any. We'll come to the community, again, as we know more about the schedule of that. And, again, for comments, etc.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kurt?
All right, and just following up, first on what Sandro asked, is the construction part of this, of the, Pinch Point Bridge going to be part of this, project before this project is completed?
I believe that will be on a separate schedule than this project, but we don't have the schedule yet of what that will be. So
Is
it will
is
be
the
a
money
separate
is the money
project.
allocated? That's part of the word. Is the money already allocated and set aside for the construction of the bridge?
I believe so. Kristen or Jeff, are you on from DDC and want to speak to that?
I don't see either of them in this.
Okay, you know what, I could find that out more definite. I want to say yes, otherwise they wouldn't move forward with the procurement of the design, because the city typically won't do that until the funding is in place. But I will bring that back, and I'll provide a response to CB6 tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yes.
much appreciated.
Please do, Laura.
Now, I have a question about astronomical high tides and the fact that we have sea level rise. But as part of this project, the height of the bulkhead, which is a historic height, which goes back to probably the 100 years, is going to be a concern. When we have twice a month the water go over the bulkhead, is there going to be any kind of a protocol that is going to be invoked, closing the ferry landing, for example, because it is no higher than that bulkhead, closing the floodgates to protect the surrounding community, or is it just expected that that water would flow into the parallel conveyance?
Sure. So DEP Coastal Resiliency Bureau could probably shed a bit more information on what would trigger the closure of the floodgate. I believe how we received that New York City alert from the other day that there might be high tides due to the full moon, etc. I think if they felt that the impact of whatever weather was forecasted, again, even if it was just from a big moon and the way the tides are working, they would have to make that call, with the city and emergency management, if it was, impactful enough to warrant the closure of the gates to protect the community. But again, that's what the gates and the wall are for, to protect from that surge protection. So again, I would imagine that if some sort of weather or environmental event that were to happen that wasn't with like a hurricane or a superstorm, that they would be able to close that system down, to protect the community. That's the point of it. So, but I would say that those types of questions would be better directed to the people who will be operating it, which is that DEP Coastal Resiliency team.
Okay, another question to share with them relates to the schedule for project area 2 completion, meaning when will these floodgates be operable? I'm assuming from what you're saying that they won't be available if there's a hurricane that hits this year, this fall.
So technically, that's a great question. The floodgates are operable. When we hand over the project to the city, so when the construction team hands over the project, when PA2 hands over the project to the city, everything within the PA2 contract is fully functionable. So the floodgates are fully functional right now. They did a test the other day. So it would be, the full parallel conveyance part of it isn't all finished, which again makes that complete flood system, right, to protect from storm surge and drainage. But similar to no one's ever asked if they would just close the gates without, the whole system being finished. So I will do my best to get an answer for that question as well.
Okay, but we have
Thank
a
you.
question about the asphalt that's in the rails. You said you did a test. What did you do with the asphalt in that case?
Yeah, I believe they removed the asphalt, and I don't remember which test they did, which gate they did the test on, but I know they had, I don't know if they were testing it with the new plates that they were, that they had designed. But I know that they did a test of the gate, which would likely mean that the asphalt wasn't there, unless it was perhaps one of the swing gates. So I could find out more about that, but again, the asphalt is only temporary, and once the flood gate and flood wall system is deemed to be completed and ready for operation, it needs to be, again, 100%, the asphalt needs to be removed, etc.
One last question.
You promise?
You haven't mentioned when work is going to begin on raising the park south of 14th Street. I assume that we are vulnerable to water coming up through there until that is built.
Yeah, technically, Project Area 1 and Project Area 2 are one esker system. So the entirety of the flood protection needs to be built for the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project for everything to be functioning as it's designed.
Thank you.
So by 2026, then the full system will be operational.
Awesome. Alec?
I just have a question about that structure that you showed that was 4 stories below ground. If you can go back to that slide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where would employees of these structures access these? Would they be through publicly accessible sewer grates or manhole covers? Are there permanent structures that are being constructed?
So I believe the access is through the building, but I just need to confirm, because on the drawings here, you'll see this is where the buildings are and the tide gate chamber is below them. But to be completely certain that, the building is directly on top of this, I would just need to verify that. But they are very much so tied together.
Okay, and they would be new buildings that aren't currently there?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
This is a rendering of the new building. In the Public Design Commission presentation, and I know Ethan from our team is on. Ethan, if you want to if you have access to the chat and you want to drop the 2 Public Design Commission presentations in the chat, that would be great. But it goes into the materiality of the buildings. They have these glass tiles, and they were very specifically designed for this project. And they might offer more sections on the relationship between the building and where the chamber sits as well. And I apologize, I don't know the specifics on that.
They did present that a while back, and that ladder staircase connects to a door at the top of that building.
Yeah.
It does. Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank
I just needed to confirm if it's directly underneath it or kind of off to the side. So, but yes, it should be kind of right underneath the building. And you could see kind of the ladder and the staircase there, and then what would be a hatchway door.
Great, thanks.
Got it. I'm gonna group a few questions. Some were answered. You already answered some of the questions that were asked, but there are repeated questions about the issue of graffiti, and I think this is more about vandalism than graffiti. First, when is the plastic sheeting coming down? And that already has a lot of vandalism on it. And I guess related to it, how will the structure you're showing on the screen now be also protected from being tapped?
So yes, there has been a lot of vandalism in the area. The contractor did put up the plastic sheeting to help prevent damage to, or the graffiti to the wall. And it will be both the building and the flood walls and the full system will be the responsibility of that DEP coastal resiliency program department. So they will be the ones who will be maintaining and kind of policing or managing the vandalism to the structures. So again, that would be a question for them.
Got it. Do you know if anti-vandalism is something that was considered in the design, or is this an after the fact where they have to come back and clean it and
They,
just wait?
the flood wall does have an anti-graffiti coating on it,
Got it.
which, yeah, so that has been applied. I'm not sure about the building, if there is some sort of anti-graffiti coating, but again, we can come back to you with that. But the walls definitely have that anti-graffiti coating. The contractor has worked, has removed graffiti from some of the walls, but again, it was becoming very frequent. So then they put the the plastic over it. I know DEP did come speak at one of the CB3 meetings, and they did say that they were already thinking about how this was going to be managed. That was quite a few months ago when that resiliency unit had just formed, and I think there were like 2 people within that unit. So I know that they have been working for a lot longer now. So it would be, I think, really great to have them come speak.
Got it.
And, oh,
Go for it.
and did I hear that those are glass tiles on that building?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. How easy are they to break?
I don't think they're very easy to break. I think they're some sort of like very tempered glass.
Tempered
I'm
glass?
not really 100% sure because I haven't looked at that detail in a while, but it is in the PDC presentation, and they have a picture of what the actual like glass block looks like also.
Got it.
Okay,
Thank you. There's follow-up? Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I wanna comment on something on the vandalism. Is there a way that rather than prevent vandalism, that this can be an opportunity to display public art rather? So, some graffiti artists can just go and do their work and it be rotated, so it's official and it's.
Isn't there a wall adjacent to the parking lot that isn't protected with any special coating that's now covered by graffiti?
Well, I assume this is the
Next to
part that was,
Next to the bike path,
right.
opposite the,
Yeah, I think that's what we were referring to, and I'm assuming that's what was meant, right? Is right? That's what we're referring to when you said there's anti-graffiti coating on it.
On the flood wall, yes, on the kind of wavy
she's
flood
saying
wall.
the flood wall, not the
But you're talking about like
wall by the
the
parking lot.
Jersey barrier or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's
Got
the
it.
roadbed and the parking area.
Okay.
The area is just dark and dingy and.
Do you know which one folks here are referring to? This is separating the parking under the elevated structure.
I think the last time we were here and that question was asked, the answer was there was not graffiti coating on the Jersey barrier. I think we brought that back, and I would have to follow up to see if that happened to be added or not. So I'd have to double check with that. And then to the original question about the walls becoming a space for community art, etc. That was one of the items that was brought up at that CB3 meeting as well, that they would be kind of exploring that as an option. But again, that DEP Coastal Resiliency Department would be responsible for that moving forward.
Got it. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm gonna move us on, but I'm just gonna mention, Ethan, you put a few resources in the chat. Only the host and panelists can see that. So for the 34 folks who are calling in, that what was shared with us are links. Yeah, actually, if you can pull them up real quick, but these are all links from the ESCR website, presentations from 2019, 2020, and about the project. Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, I want to ask actually in a tangential question about the bike path bollards. Up by 23rd Street, by the gas station. The last set of bollards you have is south of the exit road across the bike path. That block between that exit road and 23rd Street frequently has vehicles from the gas station driving along it, which is dangerous. And I recommend that you, if you haven't got it in your plans, put an additional set of bollards on the north and south end of that block to protect the cyclists. Also, the cyclists who are going through the existing bollards are finding, especially if they're riding city bikes, that they're placed so closely together, it's difficult to get through without hitting one.
Okay, I mean, we could definitely take that back to the team. I think at this point, this project will likely not be doing any more construction work in that area. So I think it would be ultimately something that gets taken back to DOT, who would be managing sidewalks and the greenway. But we certainly can take that back. And again, if that was very specific. So if there's a way to kind of illustrate exactly what you're talking about a little bit better, or kind of maybe write it out or with a photo or something, that would be more helpful. But we could also ask DOT to just take a look at that area in general, how it operates, how people are moving around. They've done that before, so we could certainly do that.
Very specifically, it's the area right next to the gas station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. In the interest of time, seeing no more questions, I'm gonna move us on. Thank you so much, Desiree. It would be great if I can, actually, I'm just gonna ask if you can come back next month with updates, especially on the outstanding items, whether there's funding earmarked for the pinch point, the issue of anti-vandalism treatment, the issue of deploying the gates, whether they're operable, and a few other questions that came up. So if we can have answers by next month, that would be amazing.
Okay, great. And we did get an answer on the money. There is money allocated for the pinch point.
Got it. Is there an amount that's made public?
I will come back with that, but there is money allocated.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. Have a great night. And perhaps I'll come in person. I apologize. I couldn't be there in person tonight.
No worries. You're welcome to.
Thank
you. Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, moving us to the next topic we have. It's a discussion of a request to install a self-cleaning restroom near Stetson Cove Park. And I believe Dina is here. Talk about it. Hi, Dina.
Hi, Candace and I are both here. Candace is the park manager for the park.
Hi, Candace. Welcome.
Both of us work for Solar One. So, I'm not even sure how to begin this, but essentially, people may be aware that, we maintain 2 porta-johns at the 20th Street entrance of the park purely to lessen the amount of, or the frequency of people using the park itself as a restroom. Because the restrooms at Murphy Brothers and at Asher Levy close at 6. Asher Levy, you need an ID to enter there and use their restroom. At nighttime, there are often people that have, let's say, pressing gastrointestinal needs, and to make things more tolerable for the park staff, we maintain those restrooms. They've been getting very, very out of control lately, and we've had several complaints from members of the public about the condition of them. People think that they're not being maintained. In fact, they are being maintained, but they get, dirtied again almost immediately after they get cleaned. And we had, explored the possibility of a self-cleaning restroom similar to the one in Madison Square a number of years ago, and we were told that because the park is in a floodplain, that it would not be possible to get them installed. But now that the flood wall is there, and also because DOT is in the midst of a street furniture project where they're looking for 20 sites to install these restrooms, we feel like this is our best opportunity to request one for the area near the park. And we've done some measurements. it seems like, where the highway overpass is at 18th Street is one place that could be really great because there's a lot of space there. It's not too close to anything. There's a fire hydrant down there, so there's clearly like water infrastructure. So that would be our preferred location if possible. The other possibility would be to install one near where the porta-johns are now, probably on the parking lot side at 20th Street. There's also some room there, but it's not as ideal because it encroaches a little bit on the bike path, and it would be better, I think, to keep that area as open as possible. Anyway, I think that in order to advance this with DOT, we would need a letter of support from the community board. So that's why we wanted to mention it to you guys tonight.
Got it. Thank you. Any thoughts or questions? You mentioned a couple of locations. I know this is early stage, so I'm assuming you don't have a map to point for folks who are less familiar with the area.
No, but I can bring one. We can prepare one and have it for you next time.
That would
Do you
be
have anything
helpful.
to add, Candace? Did I leave anything out?
I would just say I put in the chat a link to the self-cleaning toilets we're talking about, or the page where they have the automatic public toilet information. Yeah, and I don't think they're going to be maintenance free, and it's unclear to me whether DOT then maintains these. But it is something we think about a lot. Is how to alleviate this quality of life issue.
Got it. Thank you. I'm just sharing my screen to show folks the link that was shared. Again, the public attending cannot see our chat, so just showing you this is directly from DOT's website. So if you just
it's the same one as at Madison Square Park.
Exactly, yes.
Got it.
So it's the toilet that's self-cleaning?
Yeah.
The whole unit is self-cleaning. I think the doors open automatically and it
Okay.
hoses itself down from the inside on a regular, it says engineered to self-sanitize after each use. So yeah, that's how it works.
Majed, this board, a number of years ago, when those were being proposed, had a great deal of interest in having one of these at the 34th Street ferry terminal. I think one of the great advantages of having this here where you're proposing is that it would serve the Stuyvesant Cove Park ferry terminal as well.
Yeah, the reason why we couldn't have it as a 34th Street one was there was no water infrastructure there.
And
But that's not a problem here.
no, you've identified a water source. That's great.
And who's responsible for the maintenance of it?
That is not 100% clear. I feel like the DOT website implies that they maintain it, but we would have to get confirmation from them about that.
My understanding is that it's a franchise. JC Deco, who maintains the bus stop shelters, does have the street furniture franchise, and this is part of that.
Okay.
Got it.
Is it the same as at Herald Square?
Yes.
I believe the bid takes care of that one.
Oh, is that it?
Got it.
Well, maybe they'd be looking at Stuyvesant Cove
Yeah.
Park.
Well, regardless if generally we are in support of this idea, I think it's best that we support the resolution that we
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of up for DOT to figure that out.
Do we want to put on the meeting next month
To discuss,
as for a resolution?
do we want to wait for next month or in general, if you're in favor? Oh, I mean, we can take a
We could take a vote now.
a
yeah.
vote.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
They're allowing only one in this area because I'm thinking Murphy's Brothers and the Con Ed ball fields were promised this like 20 years ago.
Is there?
Murphy
a-
Brothers has a restroom. Has a
Pardon me?
public restroom. There is
This
a
for
public
people
restroom
using
at
the
Murphy
Esplanade.
Brothers.
It does now? Okay.
Yeah,
This is for people on the Esplanade.
but I mean, we'd be happy to have more than one. They're installing 20 citywide, so I feel, If we can get one, that would be fantastic. If we can get more than one, it might be too much to wish for, but
Let's get one.
let's start with one.
Let's
That
start
would-
with one.
Let's go for all 20 and then we'll settle.
Yeah.
We'll bargain with it, right?
All right, that's great. Then, do we have,
Letter of support, so letter of support.
great.
Well, we have just a resolution.
We would do a resolution on a letter.
We do a resolution, our letter, yes. Yes.
She asked for a letter.
I know, but we don't do
And this is
Okay.
2013.
I'll take everything.
that. Do that.
We can bail.
Every expression of support is welcome.
All
The
right,
committee doesn't write a letter.
Right.
do we need a roll call for this or by show?
No.
A roll call. A roll
You want to do a roll call? Go for it.
Yes.
So this is in support of us writing a resolution endorsing a Stuyvesant Cove Park self-cleaning toilet.
Is there an objection? Is there an objection? I don't
We're
think so.
supporting you directly. No letter needed.
All right, Brendan, you know the process. Should we, if there's no objection, should we just? move
Well,
on?
is it just to write a resolution?
No, we're gonna have,
Is it-
we're gonna have a resolution today.
Okay, so for it to be at full board next month?
We have to
or-
vote on it. Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that. Let's do a roll
Yeah,
call
if-
and we put it on full board.
Yeah, if you want it to be a resolution that's at full board next month, there should be a roll call vote.
Okay, let's do it that way. Then we'll ask for a volunteer to write the resolution.
Okay, sounds good. When I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Majed Al
In favor.
Tanya Arias,
In favor.
Victoria Benatar,
In favor.
Jen Collins,
In favor?
Maya Donahue,
In favor?
Alec Militic,
In favor.
Rich Mintz,
In favor.
Larry Shire,
In favor.
Sandro Sharad,
In favor.
Letty Simon,
In favor.
Susan Steinberg,
In favor.
Gabe Terzo,
In favor.
and James Vera.
In favor.
Okay, it unanimously passes with 13 in favor, and we now need a volunteer.
Awesome.
I'll volunteer, but I just have a clarifying question. Are we definitely going to try to get it under 18th Street Bridge? Because to me, with the two options, that sounded like the better option.
Yeah, that's really what they were proposing for.
Well, they also have the
It would be,
option.
yeah, it would be preferable because there's just more space there and it would be less obstructive to the flow of traffic, which I think is what we want. We just scouted an additional location just in case.
And if I can suggest that we, in the whereas, we can just say Solar One team has identified a few locations. So
Yeah.
in the, therefore, we're just supporting the idea without specifying location.
No, no, we can indicate that the preferred location that we support is the one, and then they had this alternative location in case it doesn't work out.
Larry, it does seem like the city is more responsive if we recommend the area and possible locations and then let them cite where the actual best location based on all the infrastructure is.
Right.
They would prefer it that way.
Sandy?
We've talked about adding maps to our resolution, so I think if Solar One would like to send us a map, we could include it in the
Start
resolution.
here.
It'd be great to help.
Great
Very
idea.
helpful.
I love the suggestion. As an urban planner, I love the suggestion. Yes.
Yeah, I think we should be able to send that to you this week. It will not be difficult to put that together for you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Second.
Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you presenting.
Thanks very much. We'll talk to you later.
Have a good night.
Bye.
All right, moving on to our third topic for tonight, and it's a continued discussion of a proposed public uses for the water club site at 500 East 30th Street. I'm assuming everyone here is very familiar with what that site is, what that site can offer. The latest on, you might all be familiar that a survey went out and we got a lot of very positive reactions from the community, which I won't go through details, but just to summarize, it's mainly been folks wanting to see public amenities there. They don't want to see it fenced off. They don't want to see it going back to its previous use. I think we have an opportunity here in the committee to push that a little bit further, help EDC in their thinking, to, better position the site, to prioritize it. Granted, they have to do a lot of repairs on the bulkhead, a lot of details there, but just opening the floor for any thoughts, ideas, about that site. Jim, that's all.
We had talked before the meeting began that we probably ought to have have that,
Pontoon.
Barge.
the
Barge.
barge looked at and determine whether or not it's feasible. It's been there for 50 years. I don't know that it's ever been in a dry dock or ever been looked at.
So let me pass
In terms of the whole of it.
I'll just pass to Sandy because she knows background on
We've
it.
been told by the EDC that it's condemned and will not be used.
Will not be used. So we're only talking about the land next to it. We're not talking about
Right.
the barge.
So is there also a possibility of a new operator bringing in something similar for a future restaurant?
These are questions for us to ask, but just know that the removal of that, the barge, the repair of the bulkhead, that's gonna be quite costly. So to place something else there, probably only gonna prolong this as opposed to reclaiming the waterfront, like what is north of it.
Is
Yeah.
the barge critical infrastructure for the existing building?
Yes, I think so.
So then
Yeah,
if the barge is condemned, then
The building.
Yeah.
the building is, there's
gone.
no point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
there's
my
no building.
experience, it'll be hard to replace that.
Well,
You know,
in the past, I recall, there had been Malcolm Forbes's yacht, the Highlander, which had tied up to the bulkhead there for a period of time. So we've seen other maritime uses, at least in my memory.
Okay,
Got it.
but it wouldn't be permanent infrastructure. If it was a
Well-
yacht, then it was
Well,
moving
no,
around. It was-
the yacht just simply tied up
Sure.
to the bulkhead with a few fenders and it, just had access from the parking lot.
Okay.
Jim, the Victoria?
Yeah, my preference is, I mean, we're talking basically the parking lot.
Yeah.
Right.
For all intents and purposes. And given the lack of play space and park space in this play space, particularly in this community district, I think that should give us get the highest priority.
You know, I went to visit, St. Susan's recommendation, so I was going there. It's super hard to access.
So,
There's really, I mean, I have to go back and around and then I end up in a parking lot.
Right.
So this is number one, like, is there a way to make this access more, friendly from different areas? Number two, my question is, what do we want for this site to be? Do we want this to be for the community? Do we want to profit from it and make some money? Do we want to have some commercial activities? Do we want to have like for children, do we have an agenda?
I think that's part of the discussion here, and I would argue based on the findings that we got and based on research we've done. Remember, we had our two fellows who did the research last year, but all of our research, even the FDR work that we did, just all highlights the fact that that entire buffer is inaccessible, lacks public amenities for the community, and is, from a resiliency perspective, quite vulnerable. So adding a structure or even trying to monetize it probably is not top priority for us. I would argue it's not a top priority, but rather more like something that Jim or others mentioned.
Because in France, this police that Bernard Schumi did for, try to do something that can cross,
Right.
something that can be fun and iconic.
Right. But then,
Well, I think that, given the fact that greenery is really good for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of cooling the environment and giving us oxygen and even if it's hard to access and it makes it impractical to become a park, for example, because it's difficult, like you say, to get there and so on and so forth. Can it be just turned into a beautiful green space that you can access if you're running or bicycling or whatever, but it should be like a green space. We need more green space in the city. That's what I envision.
So I took a quick look this afternoon, excuse me. If you look on the zoning map, that there's a whole lot for the water club goes down and encompasses the heliport and the parking lot. So I don't see us getting any of that property and also takes on part of the FDR service drive, so I don't think we take any of that property. So we end up with basically a strip that's about, and this is just from Google Earth, about 50 feet wide by 600 feet long. And so programming that is going to be its own sort of special challenge. I agree that the
Just
green space,
greenery.
because there's not really a place
Yeah.
in the community to just be, and I have a lot of ideas about pickleball courts and different activities, but if someone's not doing that, then they're excluded from using
Right.
that space. So there really aren't any places to just be and watch the sunrise, let's say.
Larry?
I think there's an example of something worth considering along those lines, dubbed the Manhattan Healing Forest. It's actually on Roosevelt Island.
Yes.
And they're featuring 1,000 different native plants in a area of only 2,700 square feet, sort of like a mini forest. And since we have this next to the Greenway, it would be a perfect location to perhaps replicate that right here on the real Manhattan Island.
And I've been in that Roosevelt Garden, it's beautiful with the green space.
Right, and it's based upon something that they do in Japan.
I was thinking of, I don't know, you're probably all familiar with Little Island on the west
Yes.
side.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a little itty bitty little island with lots of different greenery.
So
It's
taking from the
consistent,
water,
yeah.
you wanna go in the water as well? Going inside the water.
That's what I was
Like-
thinking, too.
That's possible.
Because it's narrow.
Yeah.
I mean, the length is good. What is it, 200 yards, you just said? 600 feet? Or,
600.
600 feet is
so
like,
it's about 200 yards, right? Roughly?
yeah.
And
And if it's 50 feet, if you could extend out to the East River, especially at the narrow points, you might have a decent size, because the hardest thing to find in this community district is play space, fields, playing fields. You've got the Con Ed fields, but those are private anyway.
Right.
We don't have that much in the way of public playing.
In that 50 feet, people would still need to be moving through to get to the other, moving along that green path with the bike lanes and the walking path would have to be included in that 50 feet.
Right. Yeah. And, that's an issue.
I mean, if you look across the river at the Hunt Point Landing, they did a great job there, and this could be our response to that development.
It could be also a mixed use thing with like an amphitheater in the greenery that can have events and people can see it and.
Come on.
I think those are good ideas, but I don't think you have enough space for that, and also the cost of building out into the river is gonna be exorbitant. And I think we should really be looking at what to do with the space right now, like that could be a future project to build on top of, but I would also not like to see this just sit around while we're trying to come up with these ideas of expanding into the river. Also, we have to look at like ferry lines and like also the other traffic that goes through the river. But my idea was to, in the same vein as what everyone else is saying, but having it more be a community garden, where you do still have a little bit of community involvement. A lot of East Village and Greenwich Village have super small spaces, like this one that you could use for that. And then you can invite the native wildlife as well for people to plant and stuff. But it gets a little bit.
What I
people
find
involved in there.
with community gardens though, sometimes I lived in the East Village, in the middle of a lot of community gardens. There are some great ones and then there are some higgly-piggly ones. They get a little honky tonk.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
but
mean? Like some people take care of their and others don't, and it
I
becomes.
think that's part of it, like, we do have to be a community that encourages people to take care of it, and like, have, like, Sutton Place area of community is like super small, except where I live, and they do programming events to really try to get people involved, and we don't have any greenery, ours is all like brick terraces. And we have like really small strips, and part of it is, if it's a little bit more hodgepodge and a little bit more overgrown, like, that is our community also. We can't like super manicure landscape everything so it looks pristine and proper. I think how people want their community garden to be, like, yes, it should be well maintained and taken care of and not be a dump, but also a lot of the ones in East Village are like in empty lots in between buildings. I think this will naturally look better and have more interest because of it being on the waterfront.
And do you think we can stimulate compost, like having a compost station so people can come and?
Like that would be also a really good way to integrate people to
Yeah.
start doing composting.
Exactly.
Well, it's gonna be law now.
Yeah, but also,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Letty.
Just, what is the amount of income that the city is deriving now from the site?
That's a good question. I don't think they have shared any numbers. They've talked about, so one idea that was floated for EDC was to maybe use the parking, actually, take over it and rent it and make some revenue off of it. And that's something we are in the short term trying. They're saying this is like short term fix while it's there.
Oh, okay.
And I think we should push back on that regardless of the dollar value they would share.
Yeah, but I was just curious as to what that amount was, to know how vehemently they will argue.
Yeah,
That was
fair.
just
We'll
general
see what we're up against.
I don't think they're getting any income.
Weren't they pitching this as a casino site?
At one point, they came.
Not more recently.
You know what they did in Paris, around the Seine, they have like these little, it's like food trucks kind of thing.
Right.
So it could be also like in a space that could be programmed for profit for the community. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could be. One thing I'll just, sorry, go ahead.
I feel like that would bring too much congestion. It's already a pretty tight area and with, what is it, just one-way lane? I feel like there'd be too many vehicles if we were to do
I
that.
think that it's a tight area. It's, there's not much that can be done there. And I think we have to be, just for expediency and in order to avoid the city turning it into a parking lot, forever, we should really just try to get to a position where we have an alternative that is easy to do and that is not too expensive and that will be benefiting everyone there. And I think we all agree that we want some sort of garden or greenery or something to that effect. I mean, if you get too convoluted, the city's gonna just shut us down.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to propose something along the lines of what I mentioned earlier, a forest. We don't
I
have
agree.
a place where we have a concentration of trees. And this is also an area which is remote from people's homes.
Mhm.
So if people want to walk, it's a destination.
Right.
is it wide enough for that? Like trees are big, like they're gonna, if you want a forest, like they're gonna get really big. The root structure is going to be crazy.
We're talking about a mini forest. A lot.
We're talking about sequoia, the sequoias.
This is so far a slab, right? This is a slab, it's a concrete slab, right?
Right,
Yeah.
so you pull up the
So,
concrete
yeah.
and you
And that is easy
adjust
to
the
do.
soil, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what I was thinking of, having like some kind of amphitheater where you could like fill it up and.
Oh, you could also elevate the area like they've done in the East River Park to make it part of a coastal resiliency.
Right. And in discussions about this, it's also worth remembering that it's not particularly a pleasant, while the view is amazing, it's not particularly a pleasant place to sit and relax with the highway overhead.
And the helicopters.
The highway.
The highway has to be like, I don't know, maybe we can write some statement.
But the trees will
I agree with-
soften things.
I agree with you. I think the trees become a bit of a
About
Sound absorber.
and a sound absorber. And there's no downside to trees.
No.
There really isn't.
I was gonna say the trees, well, one would get rid of the FDRs, there's no problem.
Perfect. Sorry that.
I'm ready for that.
I think a little bit of tree life provides a lot of ambience.
Yeah.
Ambiance. I would like to add my voice as pro miniature concession, something that's similar to like near Madison Square Park. I think having something that is revenue generating.
Yeah.
That draws be the worst thing, and
I'm not opposed to that, I'm not opposed to that
And
either.
I think that's a standard format that Parks has developed, so they could just plop one of those down.
And it can be like big planters with plants, so we don't have to dig into the slab. And then have like, instead of food truck, little vendor.
I don't
I
know.
think that's what I meant.
That
not
slide's
like-
gonna get hot though, isn't
The
it?
thing with the
Yeah,
phone,
but with the plants, I mean, there is a way of doing it, and, you know. I don't know, I
Create
think
a
this
tree
area
camp.
needs to be activated. I saw a lot of people passing, it's just on hostile.
Yeah.
So it has to become a
Cement is so
destination for that to
hostile.
work, so there has to be some reason for multiple people to go there
Yeah,
before they can support a vendor to offer
Correct.
food to those people. So it has to be something for everyone, like Madison Square Park. And then, Shake Shack started out as a little cart, and then now it's.
a multi-billion-dollar.
Exactly.
yeah.
The thing is, if you put a forest there, you're gonna obstruct the beautiful view of the graffiti on the side.
So, and.
Let's double that for us. Let's double it.
In principle, maybe the concession question is up in the air, and none of us, to my knowledge, are landscape architects, so I think we kind of are on the same page, right, what we want in principle.
Right, greenery.
Here and one here.
Yeah, great, greenery.
A couple of them.
Yeah.
Oh,
And cite the example of the little mini 2,700 square foot area on Roosevelt Island that is designed to be like a mini forest.
Have any of you been there?
That on the
Roosevelt
farm
Island?
park.
Yeah, it would be.
I haven't been there.
Beautiful.
Is there a way that we can
It's
find, like
beautiful.
a precedent or something that we can send to the community so we can share the road like?
Yeah, there's an article in the New York Post.
So can I say, actually, just to also move us forward on this, this is gonna be an ongoing conversation for us, but since EDC are currently contemplating what to do with it, I think it may be in our interest to put something out there, even if it's for short-term activation. I mean, we can say, go out there with some chalk and draw some, whatever it's called, the small tennis. what's it called?
These are-
Pickleball. If you put pickleball in, folks will come out of nowhere and play. So even that,
Yeah.
no matter how you feel about pickleball, is better than having parking there. So
Yes.
I wonder if folks agree that it's good for us to put out a resolution first saying, don't make it parking.
Yes,
you know,
100%.
And start saying we are in talks about, our interests for more green space, for natural reclamation, for activation, playground.
Public
whatever it is.
space, public.
No, I think your suggestion
Yeah.
there, pickleball is really hot right now and,
It was too hot.
And-
Folks will be out there in 10 minutes. It's.
and.
But I think
no,
they won't let
and
it
you-
go,
you-
that's my only.
and
concern.
Which maybe is not a bad thing, because then you bring attention to it. I'm pretty sure a lot of folks in the community don't know this place exists. Especially if you don't run or walk that area. You're like,
Yeah.
all right, that's by the FDR, it's probably parking.
So you could either
I mean, I
walk
went
there or
on my
bicycle
way.
there.
Yeah.
Then it's-
You're not gonna drive there.
But then it's not for everybody, then it's for a specific group of people who play this one
Who play
game.
pickleball.
Right.
Yes.
And it's only, you have a court and then there's 2 or 4 people.
Well, the
taking-
skating rink in Central Park was turned into pickleball courts, 12 of them, I think, or.
Yeah, but during the summer,
Summer.
yeah, during the summer though, when you can't ice skate.
I really think that it should be for more people than
In
just
Washington-
pickleball players.
Yeah.
I
In
really
Washington Square,
do.
Well, he's
What's
just
the
looking
survey?
for an instant,
Yeah.
Instant, just say, lift up the cement and put trees there.
No, you're gonna.
So just to also align on the objective, we want to put this on folks' radar in our district, that this is something we should hold on to before it gets past something else.
Right.
Now, whether it's pickleball, which I don't, for the record, this is recorded, I don't play, this is not. If that's to get people out there, let's do it, but obviously open to any other suggestion.
You have a point, we have to say something so it doesn't become a.
Mark our territories. that's
Only
what
get
I'm
involved.
saying.
Why don't you have a public forum and get some publicity?
Public park, yeah, okay, let's take actually James and Sunder.
Just quickly, in Washington Square Park, there's like a kid area that's these mounds and it's astroturf. So it's not really a planted thing. It's not invasive. It's something that was, I think, put up pretty quickly and simply and is easy to maintain. That could be thrown onto this very quickly and just show it as green, basically.
Right.
And give that idea that this is a public space.
Well, did you see what they did in the, what is it, the opera, Lincoln Center? They put these rocks for kids.
Yeah.
They take this in and out and it's just, a structure that comes in.
Quick activation, yeah, Sunder.
So I think these are all excellent ideas, but we don't really have a fully formulated plan yet. So I was gonna make a recommendation on how we approach this. I think we should probably do something like a charrette or public forum in the future. kind of think things through and what might be the most beneficial. But in the interim, since you point out that there is a time constraint on this, I think it would be appropriate for you and perhaps the chair of the board to co-author a letter indicating that we are in review of alternate plans, but do not seem to want the parking lot use of the space for the time being until we have a formal, well thought out resolution.
Yeah, but a parking lot is not even logic there.
I like,
They're gonna work to the water.
Well, we're in good luck that the chair is here. Madam Chair, any thoughts?
Great idea, and in the letter, we can, if we want, recommend several short-term ideas for what can be used and say that we're studying it further.
yeah,
Okay, Jim?
I like that idea of a design charrette.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was raising my hand
Put
for.
together a real plan,
Yeah.
and see how people react.
And find some
Maybe-
precedent.
Yeah.
Maybe give a cash reward for the winning.
That's, yeah.
Be nice.
Definitely something we can do. Okay, that all sounds great. Unless there are any other thoughts on this, there are a number of comments, questions online. Thank you. Those are all helpful. Thank you, Kevin. I'll just follow up. Kevin mentioned from earlier that JC Doe has been known for selling advertising on outdoor structures, proposing free advertising for a park or community events. This just mentions to, possible monetization for these structures. So this was actually in reference to the toilet before, but since we mentioned small concessions here, it felt relevant. Okay. With that, I'm going to move us on. So we're going to skip actually discussion of the FDR's future because a more pressing item is the budget request, which is due September 30th. Brendan, is it possible, and I'm going to stop sharing, is it possible to pull the land use budget request that we started working on? So we are ahead of schedule. We did our homework a little before the break. So we have something to point to, but it's just a draft.
Yeah, just give me a moment.
Yeah, and while Brendan is pulling this up, you all received the email before this meeting about your top priorities for the next year. This past year was quite busy, and especially for new members, so you're aware. Past year was very busy with ULURP actions. We had 2 really large projects and a couple smaller ones. They kind of ate up most of our agendas and most of our capacity. This next year doesn't look like we have any big ones, at least not as big on the radar. So we have a little bit more freedom to think. And the question that we circulate to everybody is, what are the 2 to 3 top priorities for the district? What should be working on? I would suggest, and based on discussions, that the waterfront, specifically the section from 34th Street further south, Water Club, the parking that NYU hosts, the helipad, those are a priority for us. But opening the floor for any suggestions or thoughts on our priorities. Good.
So this is sort of, I don't know, maybe a transit land use hybrid question, but we looked at Third Avenue in transit a while ago, but Third Avenue from a land use perspective is suboptimal. And I would like to perhaps keep pursuing. I've talked to like a lot of my neighbors, and generally speaking, people hate Third Avenue. It's too wide, it's not welcoming, especially now there's gonna be restaurants coming down, it's not safe. And so on and so forth. It really is not great urbanism. And it could be redesigned. And they did a great job further up north. And we could look and perhaps use board resources to improve the quality of life along Third Avenue through redesign.
Was worse than Second Avenue? Second.
Well, I don't know whose Avenue's worse.
Second Avenue. Second Avenue is,
very desolate.
it's.
Second Avenue
Oh.
at least has.
Second Avenue.
Further up where I live.
Right?
It's nice when you go further up where I live.
Yeah, but Second Avenue in Midtown is brutal.
I want to see stops and park unified.
Brutal. Second Avenue is.
Yeah, this is all there.
A lot of harms.
Yeah. So I'll say, since also this is, thank you, Brendan, up on the street, on the screen. The new parking community, District 6, something that was a carryover for us. Sounds like we might have identified one just now, but I'm gonna propose that remains, and we can detail the blurb for it. If we go back even to the list, actually, Brendan, we don't have to go through one by one now. But for example, the 25th Street pedestrian bridge, that we have to remove it. It's already included in the funding for the Spark. So I think that's
Well,
gone.
the only thing might be, with respect to the details of whether it lands in Astor Levy Playground, and provides a way of crossing 25th Street without having to use a crosswalk.
Yeah, I think that's something we're gonna discuss regardless whether it's on our list here, because it's just continuation of discussions about Spark. Go ahead, Brendan.
One other thing to flag as you all discuss these budget requests. The Budget and Governmental Affairs Committee does have these new categories for impact, community support, and feasibility. So the committee should rank the requests it keeps on those categories. It'll make the job of the Budget and Governmental Affairs Committee significantly easier when it comes time to ranking these requests.
Got it.
So,
Majed, how many do we have on our list here?
There's quite a few actually. Do you mind clicking through? It's starting in continuous promenade. So number 3, the comprehensive coastal resiliency and flood risk study.
Why do we have that on?
There were segments north of Esker that have not gotten basically any analysis, including this stretch. I think 42nd coming down to where Esker ends. That just was not received. And actually, we know for a fact from obviously residents of the district, buildings along 38, 37, that stretch cannot even get insurance because a lot of these buildings are deemed, this is way too risky, so you can't get flooding insurance on it, which is insanity. Senator?
No, I actually had a silly question. So for the 25th Street Bridge, I mean, I haven't read it in a while. It says repair. Is this not a concern that we still have until, even if that new bridge does get built, whether or not it crosses over that the exit area? Is there an exigent need to repair it in the interim?
That's a good question. Do we have emergency repair requests? Because they will continue to do that regardless.
That,
If it's in danger of collapse, that's a governmental study that has to be done.
Yeah, so I don't think state DOT is waiting for like this.
They're not going to do anything to it.
And they're not waiting on us to flag it, I think. They will have to do their own inspections.
So what was the response
yes.
for that one? Sorry.
So the response.
More information agreement before making a funding decision.
They could.
Oh, no, this is not this one. I'm sorry. On the bridge, the 25th Street Bridge.
On the 25th Street Bridge.
The supports the agency's position as follows: projects included in a 10-year plan. Okay, so it's important, but not enough for right now. Got it.
Right.
For similar to that, but the one on 51st Street with the dog run. So from my understanding, the new Esplanade will surpass the current Esplanade there. So what happens to all that infrastructure? Because it's already kind of crusty.
That dead end.
I think it's just gonna be bypassed.
Well, I understand that. We've already talked about that, but what are they going to do with it otherwise? Like, are they just gonna let it like fall into the water, or? I think we should look into that as well.
To connect the explanations, you mean?
Yeah, not the new one. There's an old one, around the low 50s, 51st Street
Right.
comes out across the FDR, and it's really low in the water.
Isn't it on the west side of the FDR?
East side.
Yeah, it's in the river.
So part of that actually relates to
right.
the UN Esplanade part that I guess relates to that
Yeah.
design. Are you gonna connect to it? Because
Well,
it's,
they're gonna bypass
There's
the
a
part,
park,
I understand, but are they
And then
just
there's a
gonna,
bridge.
are they gonna take it down and just leave the park, or are they just gonna let it become derelict and look really bad? 'Cause already
It's a
looking
good
like that.
question. I don't know.
But well, that's what I think we should look into.
But it's not a budget request.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, definitely,
Thank you.
let's bring it up when they come back. I mean, this relates to obviously the request, construct a continuous Esplanade. I believe, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but funding is already earmarked for the UN Esplanade segment.
The funding is in place for that.
Got it.
Yeah.
And we just heard today, although pinch point is a different story, although it's continuous, that's fine. So I wonder if we should leave this or take it out
Oh, you could slip this subject into that,
into that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because you don't necessarily want to orphan it.
right.
And I think to the point that you were making, I think we want to think of the whole waterfront as a contiguous space and not little pockets of potential
Right.
trees.
Exactly.
But it should be accessible, you know, the whole thing, right?
Mhm.
Just, I know we don't have the Hudson River Park Trust over here, but we should still have some design that actually communicates across the different zones.
Now, if you're going through the United Nations, this is not a security, doesn't establish a security problem.
It's a different issue.
Different issue. That's what they're gonna come back to us with. Hopefully next month, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that's on number 4. Number 5, we talked about earlier, and I think we should keep it, although funding is earmarked for it.
I think it's earmarked in like discretionary funds, so theoretically it could also be unfunded at some point, so it's not, it wasn't locked like the East Cycle Equivalency funding, so.
Yeah, and actually, this is where we don't know if the funding is for the procurement of the design
Yeah.
or the construction.
I have a feeling that it's just the design of the footings, not the bridge itself.
Yeah.
I think we
129 million.
Is it a design build project or just, if it's design build, the procurement covers them?
We don't know that.
She didn't say.
129 million?
At least that's what it
for the
says here.
design.
That's for the design?
It's a very
Gotta be
difficult,
design.
it's a very difficult design.
I doubt it. I think 129 is construction.
It says for the projects with progress, could be for construction.
129 million in capital funds. We advocate projects with progress as creating a safe space for pedestrians. This is their reply, or this
There's
is?
no way.
No, this is our state.
Right.
This is our statement.
That's our statement.
No.
What's their reply?
Okay.
Seem to be applicable to the responsible agency. One B cannot make a determination at this time.
That's helpful.
It capital project.
Where do we get the
It's
129 million from?
City and capital.
Yeah,
If that's our request, where'd the 129 million come from?
yeah. Okay, so that is probably gonna be left in there.
We find who it goes to or the comment though.
Yeah,
Just like. $129 million, $2019. I don't even know where that, I'll look.
Yeah.
See if I can find it.
Says currently funded. Fully funded.
Then there's
What
inflation.
was the response?
This,
the request does not seem to.
Anyway, that's why I asked my question.
Yeah,
It does not seem to be applicable.
okay, we need to follow up on this.
let's get that sorted by the end of the month.
Yeah.
Because that's a high priority in terms of the budget, priorities.
Yeah.
The means that the budget committee is looking at it,
Yeah,
so we need to get it sorted.
yeah, I mean, it is a continued support request, which is not ranked like the capital and expense requests are. But it's still important for the board to know what it's advocating for.
Right, and what were the new categories that we should assign?
Yeah, so,
Community support feasibility.
correct, yeah, impact, community support, and feasibility.
High impact. I said community support and better make it feasible.
Okay, sorry, before we start, can we just look at whatever is left? Number 6 is irrigation system for Solar One and so Go Park. I don't know that.
They need that.
It's already built.
Yeah, I don't
The
know that we need
irrigation.
this anymore.
Is it working?
Well, that's a different issue.
But it's already, yeah,
Although the interesting thing is, with this request, it says the request cannot be funded in fiscal year 2024.
we submit for consideration.
Resubmit for consideration.
Yeah, we should just check with Dina.
So last I heard, they didn't have anything other than hoses.
I think they prefer hoses to some other systems, so that's, could be, and we should just check with them.
Yeah.
Okay. So. All right, this is a difficult exercise. We have to come back and do more research, but to summarize, we have 4 things that we have to rank. New park, a resiliency study and risk assessment, the continuous Esplanade request, the pinch point. We'll come back and check the Solar One irrigation system. We will check the 25th Street Bridge, and whatever outstanding issues. But these 4.
Okay, you say new park location?
It's not part of, this is the first request. I don't think we have identified that. We can
Okay, because.
amend this to make it water club.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
park could be
that's one
that,
possibility, right?
your forest.
Park is the parking area, the NYU parking, that's specifically what it's referring to, right?
Which is north, so.
That's on the
parking
other side
area,
of the helipad.
helipad, yeah, exactly.
All right, new park, both sides of the heliport.
So 2 new parks.
I think, let's just call it one park, and then we can specify what the extents of that parks are.
Just say
The
Brad-
request makes vague references to various sites. We didn't want to get too specific. So if you look at the blurb, it does allude to NYU parking lot. It alludes to the water club.
Right, and Jesus, or has the board put out resolutions about the helipad, right? We have already voiced concerns about the noise and
It has
smoke.
put out resolutions, but I'd need to look on the tracker. We tag them as heliport resolutions. I'd need to look at them in their whole to see what sort of like official position comes out of that, unless Sandy remembers.
We don't want the heliport.
Yeah,
We're pretty clear about that.
We were an objection to them reviewing the contract.
Got it, so technically our new park can be from 34th Street all the way down to 30th. So that includes the parking, the helipad, and the water club. Right, so I don't think we need to specify, we should just move forward with, like, we get bits and pieces, and eventually we have a long, nice park. Jim?
Don't they use the helipad for organ transplants for NYU?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
We got a letter from NYU. We got a letter from NYU saying they support the heliport because of.
right. They support leaving it in place.
Retaining it.
Right.
How do the organs get there? It's so difficult to access.
In dry ice.
They fly them in.
No, but I know, well, how do you like to walk to them?
Literally, they walk. To their NYU. You know.
In their deep freezer there.
Cooler, you know,
In business.
More city lights.
Yeah, okay, so I'll
That's the thought.
assume the new park is the highest impact in how we are ranking. It's high impact. And community support is high, I would say pretty high.
Yes.
Okay, how come we are weighing in on feasibility? That does not sound like our job. Can we leave this?
I mean, it's something that will help the budget committee rank requests in the end.
What are the options? Low, medium, high? What's
Low,
up?
medium, high, or, unsure.
Okay.
No, as long as there's money.
Right, like
Yeah.
feasibility is quite, I'm not sure that there's definition for what we're weighing in on here.
It's pretty straightforward, but how it's funded is a whole.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically feasible, right?
Yes, can we say technically feasible?
I'd say that's high, like, is it?
Yeah, we already have the
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Let's do high on this
Say high,
one.
yeah.
You don't have to acquire any land.
You also recognize that ranking, like, on impact community support and feasibility doesn't have to be like an exact
Everyone says high
science.
for everyone.
Right.
It's just, as I said, it's purely to help the Budget and Governmental Affairs Committee rank these requests?
We bring the bonds.
Okay, I'll say, okay, comprehensive coastal resiliency, study. The impact
It's high,
That is high.
that's very high.
is
That's for the
obviously.
new section, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
For the remainder, yeah, I would say also high across three. Community support, folks do understand the importance of studying this. It's very feasible, just have to hire somebody to do it.
it's being done already.
Yeah, oh yeah, for good segments, yeah.
Majid, regarding the park one, I'm sorry, I was looking at it again. We actually, in the blurb, it makes reference to the heliport, to the NYU parking lot site, and to the Soloviev site. It does not actually make reference, or allude to rather, to the water club site. One suggestion might be to, since the Soloviev site is probably going to be a really, really heavy lift, unless the city has a couple $2 billion in its pocket that it wants something to do with.
Yeah, I don't foresee.
Maybe what we can do is take that reference out of the Soloviev and put a reference to the water club, since at least the sites that will be mentioned are city-owned sites.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the solo.
Yeah, and we don't have to do this now, we can do it after, but
We
that
can
makes sense.
do it if you want. The office can.
Yes, I would appreciate it. Okay, constructing continuous esplanade. Again, high across the board. I'm not sure we are helping the committee by sending like.
They threw it out there. They threw it
Yeah,
out
okay,
there.
please advocate for us.
They threw it out there.
Uh,
You're just making their life easier.
Yes,
And also with these last three requests, they're all continued support, so.
right,
Yeah.
okay,
It's good to rank them on impact, community support and feasibility, but it's of the most importance when it comes to capital and expense requests, which have numbered rankings.
Yeah.
yeah,
Majed,
yeah, go.
since this is becoming much closer to construction, maybe we should raise its priority, the pinch point.
I mean, high is as high as we can go.
No, I mean, in terms of number.
Oh, in terms of
ranking.
numbering them. I don't
Well,
know if this ranking is a prioritization. Is it?
The pinch point item is continued support, which is not ranked.
Yeah,
There's no
okay.
ranking for continued support items,
Gotcha.
so.
Gotcha.
Okay. So let's, Brendan, in the interest of time, let's just do that. Please mark impact, community support and feasibility as high for the pinch point.
Okay.
And I will attend also the committee meeting and see if they have any questions for us about it. Right, irrigation system, we need to follow up, so we shouldn't mark now until we've gotten input from Dina. Right, any other comments or questions on this issue? All right, thank you. Seeing none, I'm gonna wave my chair and ask for old and new business.
Go for it. Business. The matter that I wrote to you about, the building in Gramercy Park, where they're building a cantilevered high rise on Third Avenue that will shift over onto a building that is on Gramercy Park. It's within our board district. You know, our board district bifurcates the park at Lexington. But it's disconcerting because it's gonna be like basically a high rise coming out of Gramercy Park, and who knows what, maybe one of these glass towers fronting Gramercy Park, which has always been kind of a historic, it is a historic district.
Where is the building? Where's the building, Jim?
Northeast corner.
21st between Third Avenue and the park.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, I know you reached out to a contact. Have you heard back?
No, I have not. She didn't get back to me. I don't know. This is the head of the Gramercy Park Neighbors Association, Arlene Harris. But I have not heard back from her. If anybody has recent contact, she's up in years, so I don't know even if she's resident in the neighborhood all the time. She may be down in Florida or whatever.
Right, so unless anyone
There
has
is a
any
board
information.
member, and I don't know the woman's name, I'm sorry, she's, you know. You have to be on the board like 10 years before I remember her name, I'm sorry, but she had mentioned it to me, and, that's what drew my attention to it, and Sandy, of course, sent me the article that from the Real Deal that explained what was going on.
Karen, do you have an ask?
Coverage.
You have an ask.
Huh?
You have an ask of the committee.
No.
Uh,
Well, I just,
I think it's disconcerting and
if I could just step in, there's really no information. It's very unclear as to what's going on. And it was Sandra left off was the one who mentioned it, but, you know, I tried to dig through, there's nothing in the building department on the DOB side. So it's, and apparently the building that was on the corner was in the process of selling their rights.
Right.
And no, the article that I found is a few years old, so we don't know, we just don't know what's going on.
And there's nothing on DOB?
They're not, and
Hasn't gone
there's
through yet.
no, you know, they haven't applied for a permit, they haven't applied for demolition permit, so we don't know exactly what's happening.
Is it within the landmark district?
No,
Oh, yeah.
no, that building is not landmarked. There are other buildings adjacent to it that are landmarked, but that particular.
Is it within the landmark district at all? Is that-
historic.
No.
I mean, the historic district.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Ah,
So there's no records for that cantilevered building?
no,
How could that be?
it means they haven't finished planning.
It isn't built yet.
Yeah. it's just
Oh, it
an
hasn't
idea
been
that-
built yet, okay. I was just wondering, how do you do that without DOB permits?
Did, and they bought the development.
That would really be
rights, and
remarkable.
that- Apparently, it has development rights, I think the number was $4 million. If they sold the development rights, I think the development itself would be as of right, if I'm not mistaken.
It could be.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. So maybe let's spend some more time researching, seeing if we can get more details.
Yeah.
And see if there's a role for the community board to play on this.
If anybody has contacts with other office, the only person I know from Mercy Park Neighbors Association was Arlie Harris. If anybody has contacts within that organization, beyond her.
Are you calling on behalf of the community board or on
Say
your own
again?
behalf? Are you calling on behalf of the community board or?
No, I was just calling her as, hey, Arlene.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions? If not, our meeting is adjourned at 8:30. Thank you all so
great
much.
meeting, great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia.